So Congress is getting closer to passing its sweeping budget bill, and there is good news and bad news for EVs.
Tim, did you just say there's good news?
I was just trying to make you feel better. It's all actually pretty bad.
Hello, and welcome back to the Plugged In Podcast, a weekly news show all about the future of transportation. I'm Patrick George, editor-in-chief of InsideEVs.
And I'm Tim Levin, senior reporter at InsideEVs. On this week's show, the Nissan Leaf is back with a vengeance, the latest on the battle over EV tax credits, and Ferrari is delaying one of its EVs. I know you're personally devastated about that one, Patrick. Other than that, how are things going?
I'm all right, Tim, because none of us can catch a break in the Anthropocene that we're in right now. It's currently 87 degrees in my home office where this is recorded in, and a week ago, I was on an off-road course with Brian Silvestro of Motor One, also in upstate New York, and both of us were in freezing rain wearing sweaters and rain slickers. So I can't win. I don't know what happened to the nice in-between seasons. We've climate changed those out. So just expect the next few months of this podcast, if you watch it on YouTube, for me to just be flop sweating the entire time.
That'll be great. People will love that.
It's very hot.
Really bring some some humanity to the show.
Yeah. Me passing out in front of my microphone or something would be great. How about you? How are things on your end, Tim?
Things are good. Can't complain. Before we get into the news, I wanted to remind the audience that our inbox is open. You can send us your questions about the EV world to podcast@InsideEVs.com, and we'll answer the best ones on the show. Send us your questions about, which EVs to buy, what we're looking forward to, really anything. And we will go through those.
Yeah, always happy to answer questions and talk about the market and let you guys know what we're hearing. So let us know what you want to know, as we're trying to get a lot more of the audience engaged with what we do and hear about their experiences. So yeah, send us an email.
Yeah, for sure. And with that, let's get into our first story. The third generation Nissan Leaf is here, and it's better than ever. I mean, it's pretty much totally unrecognizable, which is probably a good thing, frankly. And to recap, this new EV comes at a time when Nissan desperately needs a win. It lost $5 billion last year. It was part of a failed merger with Honda that ended with the ouster of its CEO. Its global sales have plummeted, and I didn't realize it was quite this bad, 42% since 2017. And in May, it announced plans to lay off 20,000 employees and close 7 manufacturing plants worldwide in the next couple of years. I think a lot of people we've talked about this before, but you kind of assume that all these car companies are doing okay. You don't really think about them that much if you're a casual kind of you just drive cars.
Yeah.
Nissan has a lot going on right now, and it's not great.
Yeah, if you're a normal civilian person, you don't lay awake at night, unable to sleep at 3 a.m. thinking to yourself, how is Nissan doing? Are things okay? Things good? You don't think about that much. And I also think Nissan's one of those brands that kind of just flies under the radar in general. They've just sort of no one will admit this. They've kind of quietly made their bones just cash on hood deals on Altimas and Rogues advertised during football games, and people oh, it's a car. I bought a Nissan. It's the car. It's got buttons. It's got CarPlay. It's nice. It's you don't think about it much, but behind the scenes, this company really needs a win. It also makes a lot of cars in Mexico, like the Sentra and Versa, which is a problem right now, thanks to the forthcoming tariffs. And last but not least, and I would say perhaps most inexcusably, Nissan does not sell a single hybrid in the United States at all. It used to sell a few several years ago, and it was kind of like Toyota, like Honda, early-ish to that game, and it just kind of dropped the ball entirely. So yeah, not great at a time when the hybrid market is really booming in America.
Yeah, totally. And so, I mean, that brings the question, where's Nissan on EVs, right? It has the Aria. It's electric crossover, which has done okay, but not great.
It's fine.
And there's
it's fine.
Yeah, it's a fine car.
It's fine.
And there's the Nissan Leaf, which rings a bell probably to most people because it is ancient. It's been around since the beginning of the last decade. and it can be had for around $28,000.
Yeah, I don't want to dogpile here, Tim, but it's like I did have to check to make sure like the Leaf is still for sale, and it is, and like the current one, which has been around since 2017, when it got its second generation update, you can buy one brand new right now, starting at $28,000. Which I do not recommend you do under any circumstances whatsoever. Not because it's the Leaf is a bad car. It's actually like, the range on that is not outstanding. It gets up to 212 miles of range. So yeah, it's small. It's like if you need like a second car or a third car, a little city runabout, it's great. But like get a used one. Like there's no reason to buy a new Nissan Leaf. But we might be singing a different tune real soon on that, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, a little bit on the Leaf. This was a pioneer when it launched in 2011. This was the first mass market EV, really. Around that time, it
Yeah.
was just it and the Tesla Model S. It beat the Tesla Model 3 to market by several years, but now it's really old. And it's kind of a shame because Nissan was really so early to all of this. It beat Ford and GM pretty much in this kind of modern EV era. But then it kind of threw that lead away. Like it either didn't want to invest more in EVs or it didn't have the capital to invest more in EVs. Um, but since we have you here who actually covered the car world around that time, like what was the Leaf like? What was the reception to the Leaf like? What do you remember about it from those kind of early EV days?
Yeah, I was when the Leaf kind of came out, and in its earliest years, I was working as a staff writer at Jalopnik, and this was in the like early 2010s, and like it was. I think it was a generally very well regarded little car. Like it was kind of like the Chevy Volt. Like there were people that really swore by those things and really loved them, and I knew people who drove them for years and years. It was a little bit like Nissan's like Toyota Prius. It was like the green option in their fleet, and like it was odd, like you said, right? Like for the longest time in this country, like the electric vehicle market was basically the Leaf or like an expensive Tesla sedan and like a couple of other scragglers that like I can't even really remember, and that was it. Like that's how small this was back then. And even Carlos Ghosn, who is the ousted Nissan mega boss who was removed from the company amid a scandal that I'm not going to recount here because it would take us all day. Even he has like he's become like this kind of world class like Nissan shit talker in his exile, and he really bemoans the fact that like they never really did anything with that car. Like they had this early lead on batteries and electric power, and it was like you could have run with that. Like you could have made Nissan into this like quasi Tesla competitor, but instead again, this company does not sell hybrids in America. And the last major Leaf update, like you said, was in 2017. And today's EV technology is like light years ahead of this car. Last thing I'll say about it is another reason not to buy that Leaf new right now is it uses a fast charging port called Chademo. It's like a quirky Japanese term for charge de move. And that plug format is like being phased out in America pretty much everywhere. So, you get adapter for it, but like it's obsolete in a lot of ways. And due for a replacement, I'd say.
Right. But the Nissan Leaf is getting a bunch of new changes. It's basically a completely different car. It loses all that old crappy technology, and it's been completely overhauled for the 2026 model year. So what do we got in the new Leaf? Brand new design. Instead of being a hatchback, which I think was probably a big reason why they couldn't maybe sell more of those. Just like people don't really want hatchbacks anymore for better or worse. They want crossovers. And this thing is kind of like a coupe SUV type deal. It's kind of like a raised sedan almost.
Yeah.
It has way more range than ever, around 300 miles of range if you get the bigger battery. It has, instead of that wacky old CHAdeMO plug, it has the new standard, the Tesla NACS plug, so you can just plug right into superchargers. And this is kind of like a nerdy update, but it now has a liquid-cooled battery. And a big problem, especially with the early Leafs, was passive cooling, air cooling on the battery, which led to premature degradation.
Yeah, praise be. This is, it's like a Leaf in name only. Like this is this they're keeping that
Lino.
yeah. Yeah, well, it's a lino. It's a Leaf in name only. Like they're keeping that really recognized name
Yeah.
for this completely brand new car that's on like a shrunken down version of the Aria's platform, and it seems awesome so far. But wait, right, Tim? There's more about this
Yeah, but
thing.
wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more.
A few more things. It now has Google built-in, which is something that I'm a big fan of. This
Yeah,
means native Google Maps in your infotainment with route planning. Huge. And the big deal is starting price in the low 30,000s, which is not that cheap. It's kind of not the super affordable EV that like we talk about all the time that everybody's been waiting for. But it's pretty good for EVs these days. Like that is on the lower end. It'll
yeah.
do battle with cars like the Chevy Equinox EV, the upcoming Chevy Bolt, the Kia EV3, and the Hyundai Kona EV. So what are your thoughts here, Patrick? Do you think that this can help turn things around for Nissan?
Man, I'm actually really excited about this thing. I like it a lot. I want to see it in person, but I think this is a great move for Nissan. It's like great to see like signs of life from this car company. I think the design is really clever. I love that it comes like the color they've been advertising it in all the press photos is this like bright teal color. So I hope it has more fun colors like that. Like it seems like it's like a fun, vibrant, exciting little car. And like, yeah, like I say like low 30K isn't like cheap, quote unquote. I'd put that more like 25 or whatever these days. But considering this is supposed to be a few grand more than the outgoing Leaf, and it is just better and more modern across the board. And like the fact that the average new car in America, electric or gas or otherwise, is like $47,000 somehow. I think this thing could be a really great deal. I'm really, really excited about it. We need more good, affordable EVs. We have enough expensive spaceships. Like the spaceship people are covered. However, I think it's important that we temper our expectations for this thing a little bit because Vinay Shahani, who is Nissan's U.S. marketing and sales boss, he gave an interview to Automotive News this week, and he said that the launch of the Leaf is going to be kind of tepid in this country. And I'll read some excerpts for you. And he says, to a certain extent, the market has been propped up by an additional force from the government, meaning EV tax credits. When that goes away, we're truly going to see what the natural level of demand is. I think he's right. The story also says Nissan will take what it calls a rifle shot approach to promoting the Leaf, focusing on EV friendly regions like California and Colorado. And then he continues, I'm not going to have a huge marketing budget to crush it from a share of voice perspective. We want to highlight the technological advancements and we want to appeal to what drives consideration. And that's businessy marketing speak, meaning like it's going to be a lot more targeted than it was before. Like, I don't think we should expect this is going to be Nissan's like power play. You're going to see this car everywhere. Tesla Model 3, just like every person EV rollout moment. Like, I think because of the tax credits probably getting killed and just all the headwinds in America and the fact that like it's made in Japan, so it's going to get hit with tariffs. They're going to be a lot more careful with this thing than just making this like the new electric Nissan Sentra or something like that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And that to me is kind of disappointing. Like I think
Yeah.
this will be great for Nissan. I think any new EVs that any new really appealing EVs that don't cost like 50 or 60 grand, that's a big deal for America. Any new EVs from like a brand that, maybe somebody has a Nissan Leaf. Tons of people have Nissan Leafs and they were like, well, I kind of want something like this, but so I'm not going to go get like a Tesla or a Hyundai. And so for a lot of people, like this is probably going to get a lot of more people into EVs. I got to say I'm a little disappointed. Like, for years it's been like, oh, the next Nissan Leaf is coming, and I was hoping that it would be in that like 20 something $1,000 range, that it would maybe get a tax credit, that it would be this really cheap, affordable option, and it seems like that's not what we're getting.
Yeah, like there's an alternate universe where like the US keeps its EV policies and tax credits and quote unquote mandate, which I say that to trigger you because like that's when you call it the EV mandate, like Tim Levin's head explodes. It wasn't, but it kind of was a little bit. If they kept that going and we didn't have like potentially insane tariffs on Japanese made cars, like, I could see a world where Nissan's like, we're back, baby, and like this is gonna be, again, like the Tesla Model 3 moment, but that's not the universe we're in.
Totally.
I'm so excited for it, and I'm so excited to drive it. And definitely check out on InsideEVs.com and on our YouTube page. Deputy Editor Mac Hogan gave a full video tour of the new Leaf. He did a phenomenal job with some great commentary. So like, I would highly recommend you check that out if you're interested in this car.
Yeah, and I think it's a shame that maybe they're having this kind of slow, they're really tempering expectations here, but I think that's probably the right move given what's happening in the US EV market, like EV tax credits going away and all that, which is what we're about to talk about right now. So Congress is getting closer to passing its sweeping budget bill, and there is good news and bad news for EVs.
Tim, did you just say there's good news?
I was just trying to make you feel better. It's all actually pretty bad.
Yeah, that tracks. Because like lately, like every time you pitch a story, I get like a DM in Slack from you. I'm like, oh my God, what now? Like,
yeah, it is more of that this week. The Senate Finance Committee proposed its version of President Trump's big, beautiful bill this week after the House passed its own last month. And here's what the latest proposal does to EVs. It's not that surprising given what was in the House's bill, but we're kind of getting closer to like now the Senate's proposing its side, then they'll get together and they'll pass something all together. They'll agree on something. So the latest proposal ends the $7,500 EV tax credit 180 days after the law is passed. It ends the commercial EV tax credit within 180 days too, and closes what we call the leasing loophole effective June 17th.
which already happened.
Which already happened. That was Tuesday. That was
Yes.
the day after they released this proposal, which is like, I mean, that is just super confusing, honestly. Like they are essentially retroactively closing the loophole. So when the bill passes, it will have closed potentially several weeks or months earlier.
They kind of backdated it, basically. Like when the
backdated
law
it.
passes, it's like, oh, based on this date, which already happened, So yeah, very, very clever, very mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna, for anybody leasing or like for any companies trying to lease out EVs right now, that this is like a huge blow. Tons of uncertainty because now it's mid-June. It's like, okay, what qualifies? Will this pass exactly as written? Will the date be the same? As a side note, I was talking to somebody in the kind of fleet EV space, and they described the situation as paralysis for companies like that. Like it's like you just don't know what to do because you don't know what's going to qualify when, which is probably the goal, honestly, for this Senate that's really trying to bring the hammer down on EVs. The third one I'll just get to is they're also ending the $4,000 credit for used EVs within 90 days after passage. So all the big policies are going away.
Yeah, which is obviously disappointing, and like we've covered this ad nauseum. I'm in like a Groundhog Day situation, I swear to God, with this stuff where it's just like, look, this market needs some help to get started. If we don't do it, batteries never get cheaper. China moves ahead of the U.S. Their cars will get here in the U.S. market someday, and then Ford and GM and Nissan or whoever is going to have to compete with them. Like it just sets the United States back when the rest of the world is racing to a cleaner and more powerful and a more efficient technology. If you want more information on that, listen to literally any of the last 20 episodes of this that we've recorded, or read our website on any given day. So what I want to do is I want to turn this around to like, just like what does this mean for ordinary people? What does this mean for buyers and shoppers, right? Like this is all this policy stuff is one thing, but if you're, say, we're maybe hoping to ditch your gas Mazda 3 and buy a super cheap used Polestar 2, hypothetically speaking, using the EV tax credit, what does this mean for you? And the thing is that I think it means like get off your behind and like do it soon. Like if you were going to shop for one of these cars, do it ASAP before any more legislative trickery gets like officialized. It's just now is the time to move quickly and buy or lease a newer used electric car, while you still can. We never thought that these insane deals would last forever, including like the lease deals that were heavily subsidized by the car companies themselves. And your story the other day, you reported the tax credits were supposed to last until 2032, which is also not forever. So like we knew this day would come, but like the rug is getting yanked out. And I think if you want to get a great deal, like do it soon while you still can.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, we have talked about, and a lot of experts and, people in the space kind of assumed that a lot of this stuff would stay intact. At least some of it would stay intact because some senators or some House representatives would step up to save it because they have these big investments in their districts.
Yeah.
Which we've talked about that all many times. Seems like that's not happening, right? Like between the House's proposal, now the Senate's proposal, it doesn't seem like there's a huge appetite for these lawmakers to step up and say, no, like we want to save these credits. So I think you can expect, we don't know if it's going to be 180 days or 90 days or whatever. We don't know if the exact language of this proposal is going to stick around, but like the writing seems to be on the wall that, within the year, you're not going to be able to take advantage of these credits anymore. So like you should use them now. One thing that I wanted to point out specifically, which doesn't, I think, get enough love. Like we talk a lot about the regular EV tax credit. They are ending the used tax credit even earlier, 90 days after passage, which sucks. Like I think, a lot of people would argue, people on the other side of EVs would argue that some of these credits are just handouts to rich people to buy like fancy new cars. And the used EV tax credit is very much not that. It is not a handout to rich people. The cars have to be under $25,000. There are income caps. You can't make more than $75,000 as an individual. So that could be really big for just expanding EV ownership, for getting people who legitimately just like want to save a few bucks on a newer car, want to save a few bucks on gas to get into an EV. And now for some reason they're targeting that. They're trying to phase that out even faster than the other credits, and it stinks doubly because that credit was just starting to get good.
Yeah.
Like I said, the cars have to be under 25 grand. They also have to be at least 3 years old to qualify.
Yeah.
And so that means that a lot of the ones that qualify right now is basically like Chevy Bolts and Nissan Leafs, kind of like old, like not very advanced cars. We're just starting
until
to get,
very recently. Yeah.
right. We're just starting to get like Tesla Model 3s and some Hyundai Ioniq 5s and like really cool, really good EVs. And now that credit's going to go away, and all that progress is done.
Yeah, a lot of off-lease stuff. Like all those people that leased electric vehicles last couple of years and got a great deal. Like those leases are ending. They're getting dumped on the used market. And like, this was like the best deal nobody knew about. The average used car in America that's like 3 years old or thereabouts is around $30,000. And that's outrageously expensive for a used car, especially like at a time when everybody is getting priced out in every other area of their lives. But when you add in like the depreciation that these EVs saw and then the tax credit, like you could get a really nice, good car for like 25 grand or low 20s. When I was back in Texas, I rented a Mustang Mach-E GT for laughs. I was like, I'm going to cars.com and see what one of these would go for. It's like, I could get a Mach-E GT for, low 20s, maybe including the tax credit, maybe not. I was like, that's a hell of a deal. Like these were good deals for people. And even if you don't want to just like, commit like send me to jail performance on the cheap, like I was going to do, I do this was a good clean car option for all sorts of people. And it's kind of a shame to see that go. It's kind of a shame to see that come to an end so quickly.
Yeah, very much so. There is actually some good news. I teased the good news, then I took it away. I'm bringing it back. There is good news. The House bill, the previous bill, included a $250 annual tax on EVs and $100 for hybrids, with the stated intention of, plugging the hole filled by the gas tax, because these people don't pay as much in gas taxes.
Supposedly.
Supposedly. I mean, it is true. There is a gap there, but $250 was way more than anybody pays in gas taxes. Um, Senator Bernie Moreno, Republican of Ohio, we talked about this last week maybe, he wanted to up that in the Senate's bill to $500 annually for EVs and $250 for hybrids, which would be insane. That did not make it into the bill, so that is good news. He told Politico that they omitted the proposal because it was "quote unquote" impossible. He said there's no mechanism today for the federal government to collect an annual fee. It doesn't exist. So, thanks for that.
I love that he doesn't think that the government could collect a annual tax if it wanted to. Not that I agree with this plan. I think it was stupid, but like, it's the federal government. If they want to take your money, like, they can figure it out. Like, it's it's kind of the whole point. Yeah, so it's just, this is very silly. I think that, you're going to write more on this soon too, Tim, but I think especially egregious here was the fee on hybrid owners. Like, I kind of get, I won't defend, obviously, because I don't agree with it, but like, I kind of, I guess, get the fee they're trying to charge electric vehicle owners for the road, the road tax or what have you. But like, do you know how many hybrid drivers there are in America that all of a sudden maybe bought a hybrid 5, 10, 20, 25 years ago, that all of a sudden are just going to get hit with this fee every year that they didn't know about? Like what the heck is that? I mean, that to me was really just egregious and insane. So I'm glad that's getting spiked,
Yeah. He said what he told Politico is that it would cost us more money to create a system to collect the money. So maybe they'll just raise it to $1,000 just to make up for that system. Let's hope not.
Stop giving him ideas.
Yeah, I hope. We know he's a big listener of the Plugged In Pod.
I'd love to have him on. Senator Moreno, or you and your people, come join us sometime. We'll have a nice, respectful, fact-based debate. Let's get into it. I'm down if you are. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Speaking of rich people problems, we have some news for listeners to the Plugged In podcast who are of the money having class, and that is that Ferrari is delaying its second ever electric vehicle. Oh no.
Yeah, terrible news. Ferrari is pushing its second EV from 2026 to 2028 at the earliest. Reuters reported this week, citing anonymous sources. Its first electric car should still launch next year, but the second one, which Ferrari hasn't actually talked about publicly, is getting postponed due to what one source called "quote unquote" zero demand for high performance EVs.
That's funny. Honest to God, Tim, like, I either forgot or didn't know that Ferrari was making one EV, which shows my enthusiasm for this project. So that was my reaction when they said Ferrari's canceling its second EV. I was like, second? What? Okay. But yeah, interesting. What's your take?
Yeah, I think this obviously caught fire online because anytime any company postpones an EV these days, it's kind of like the sky is falling. Is kind of the takeaway is like EVs are going nowhere. At least that's a subtext of a lot of these headlines. And I think you could say that this is a symptom. This is another symptom of EVs slowing down globally, right? Like the demand for everybody just like isn't growing at the pace that a lot of these car companies thought it would.
Yeah.
And Ferrari is not the only company that's delaying plans right now. I think the more interesting thing, and this is what we were discussing the other day, is like, does every car company need to go electric? Because like you said, like
fully electric,
electric Ferrari, or does every company need to go fully electric? Like
right.
Electric Ferrari, kind of like probably a niche product right now. At least that's what they say. Can we let some companies that don't sell that many cars slide here? Or when you're talking about, gas car bans that are going into effect in places like the EU, California, or other states, like, should everybody have to comply with that? Or is it okay to have like a few gas-powered Ferraris going around?
Yeah, I could weigh in here. This is when we invoke like Slack law, or Tim did. This is like a rule we have where if something becomes a discussion in our company's internal chat room long enough, it must be taken and turned into content somehow. So like I have a weird take for the editor of Inside EVs, and I want to be very clear that I have no dog in this fight. I am not like a giant Ferrari fan. Uh, I have no immediate plans or means to purchase one, but I can tell you that I have like negative interest in the idea of an electric Ferrari. I'm not even sure that's a market that company should be playing in. Let's agree that there are two reasons that the car market is going mostly electric, and the first one is efficiency and performance together, because the auto industry has always chased efficiency and performance, and electric vehicles represent the apex of both, I believe. The second reason is the climate, minimizing carbon emissions and minimizing the impact of the planet. So if we look at the second one, like when you're talking about Ferrari, like how much does that matter? And you and I pulled some numbers here. Ferrari sold about 13,752 cars in 2024. There are plug-in hybrid Ferraris now, but the non-plug-in hybrid ones get anywhere from 12 to 19 miles per gallon, which is not great, obviously. However, their annual mileage is actually super low. People buy a Ferrari, they don't drive them all of the time. A lot of them just like sit in garages, or they are collector's items only. I don't know how much. The most recent data I could find was from Car and Driver, like way back in 2008. So this is old, but a Ferrari spokesperson at the time told them like the average is around 5,000 miles a year for the V12 models, and it was even less for the V8s. And again, that's from Ferrari itself, and I bet you today's numbers are pretty close to that. So that's like the emissions of like one trim of Ford F-150 per week. So it almost doesn't matter. Like it's like whatever carbon emissions are being created by Ferraris is such a drop in the bucket that like I don't know. Does it is it even a relevant question we should be asking ourselves in the urgency of the moment we're in, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta take the other side on this one because as an avid collector of gas powered Ferraris, I'm really
Yeah.
banking on those to go up in value.
Yeah, I know. Your garage is beautiful. It's stunning. It's gorgeous. One of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. When you showed me your Ferrari garage, I was moved to tears. I wept as a grown man just looking at it.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I think I like logically it makes sense. It makes sense that if you're a company that's making essentially what is a niche gas powered product that doesn't actually get driven that much,
Yeah.
like maybe you shouldn't be subject to the same like gas car bans as some of the other companies. It also feels pretty weird to just let like rich people, essentially like very
Yeah.
wealthy people, just drive gas cars when everybody else has to change. To let a company like Ferrari, which just like makes money hand over fist,
Yes.
the most profitable car company in the world, I believe, by
Yes,
far.
you're correct. And a lot of that also, fun fact, is from merchandising and the brand alone. Like that's like a
Mm,
car company's worth of value is like the t-shirts and crap they sell.
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, how would you, if you were a bureaucrat in Brussels, how would you, what do you think makes sense as a rule then?
But the dream, every little kid grows up and they like, Daddy, one day I want to be a bureaucrat in Brussels, working for the EU. No, I think sales volumes does feel kind of fair. And I totally get what you're saying about like, yeah, the rich folks get a pass. When I think about like, the urgency of cutting emissions from transportation sources, I think about Los Angeles gridlock and how like all of those cars on the highway, maybe not so much anymore because like California's 25% EV now, but like a lot of those cars are just burning gas, just sitting there parked. Like that's the problem. It's like we need like electric Toyota Corollas first, and then we can worry about Ferrari. Like what is the impact we're aiming for here? And like again, I have to be very, very clear. I don't care either way. Like this is not me as some enthusiast like writing for Top Gear saying like, I have to fight for the soul of Ferrari. Like I don't give a shit. And like if the company went out of business tomorrow, like I wouldn't really care that much. I'm not even sure I can name one current car they make. Do you know any current Ferraris?
Well, I probably didn't before I did the research for this episode.
Name a Ferrari. What's like one Ferrari out there? I don't even know. Is they still make the
Um,
Roma? Is that a thing they make?
SF90 Stradale.
Stradale, yes. SF90 Stradale. Yeah, so that is a car that is real and that Tim Levin has verified exists.
Well,
But
I
it's
mean, how would I not know it? It's in my
yeah,
garage right
yeah.
now.
You just bought
Yeah.
like 5 of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's also like you have to. I kind of do empathize with that company and the challenge it's in because like how do you how do you make a name for yourself when like electric performance has just reset everything that we know and understand? Like that Volvo EX30 that I was driving a few weeks ago, the one I almost bought, that'll do 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds. Now, like the rest of it, the handling, the brakes, the exotic looks can't really back that up, but on a stoplight, it's very quick. It's about as quick as the old Ferrari 458 Italia was. Which, by the way, that was a good car. I'll give Ferrari credit there. That was a good car. Um, so when you have EVs can have that much performance from just ordinary cars, why do supercars matter anymore? And I think the people that buy in there after that experience, and I mean, this is something that we heard when Kevin and I were in China. It's um, wealthy Chinese buyers really aren't super interested in like electric Bentleys and stuff. Like they want the W12. They want like the engine. If they're going to pay that much, they want the full bore thing. And like from an experiential point of view, like I kind of don't blame them. But um, there's also the school of thought that is scientifically valid that says that every amount of carbon emissions produced by cars is a bad one inherently. So I don't know. I also don't want to go against what I know to be scientifically true. I just think it's a tough ask of those brands if you care about them. And the last thing I'll say too is like to their credit, honestly, like a lot of Ferraris are going hybrid too. In fact, Motor One, our sister site, had a story that said nearly half of all the Ferraris sold in 2023 were hybrids, and more of them are coming. And like the Formula One cars, like they're really counting on electrification to go to the next level of performance. Um, so I don't know. I'm definitely open to being told that I'm wrong here. And again, this is the least of anyone's problems. But like when an electric Hyundai or Volvo will do Ferrari grade performance, like where does it leave Ferrari?
Totally. It is one of those really, I mean, you took the words out of my mouth basically. Same thing with like Lamborghini. What do you do? What's even the point of like the electric Lamborghini or Ferrari supercar when
Yeah.
you can get a Kia EV6 GT that does 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds or something? Are these just going to be like body shells and interiors on top of a platform that is essentially been like democratized, that any car company can make a car that has like insane horsepower and torque now? They're talking about doing interesting things, like playing with torque vectoring and motors and doing things that will upgrade the experience for a supercar as opposed to like a Hyundai. But it really is a difficult position for them. It's not like you just put a V12, you make your like amazingly engineered V12 in transmission and that's the value you bring. Now it's like, what
Yeah.
value do you bring? I guess it's the brand. People are still going to want to buy Ferraris probably no matter what powers them. But it's a tricky spot for these companies.
Yeah, and it's like I'd even go slightly more mainstream with that question. Like I wonder this of like Alfa Romeo. Like does an electric Alfa Romeo matter? Like I am not interested in electric Alfa Romeo because like I
Does
feel
an
like
Alfa Romeo matter?
exactly right. Like if you can get like a killer electric BMW, like what am I going to get? Like the Italian version of that, but it's less reliable. Like it's just I don't know. It's a conundrum, and I do think it's proof that not every brand will survive the transition that's coming. It's hard to like shed tears over that, but I also think Ferrari's gonna be fine one way or another. But yeah, it's an interesting question to ask amid this pivot, and maybe there is room for electrified gas performance in the future as well. But in the meantime, if you were counting on that second Ferrari EV, if you were saving up all your monies and just counting down the days, you have to wait a little bit longer. Sorry. I'd like to meet that person. I don't know who the hell that is.
Yeah, if that's you, send
Yeah.
us an email.
Yes, that's an email. I want to talk and get to know you better. All right, now it's time for Plus Minus, our segment where we talk about who's up and who's down in the EV world this week. Tim, who you got for me?
I have a plus this week, and it's Waymo. it seems like Waymo has just like every week they come out with, I mean, they just keep expanding to new cities, expanding the area that they're operating in. And this week they announced that they have applied to start testing in New York City, which, I mean, that would be its biggest challenge yet for sure. Like if Waymo could conquer New York City and be, deploying driverless cars around like Times Square or
Yes.
Midtown or Financial District, like I think it's over for Tesla and everybody else. But we don't know exactly when this is going to start yet. All they said is that they've applied for this permit. They're waiting to hear back. And for now, they are going to be sending human-driven cars there to start collecting data and mapping the city. So, I mean, as somebody who's, lifelong New Yorker and
Yeah.
expecting to move back there someday, like I'm excited to see autonomous cars driving around New York City, dealing with like e-bikers going the wrong way down a one-way and all types of crazy shit that we have in New York.
People screaming, "Hey, I'm walking here" at them, and such.
Yeah.
Tim, you're a native, like you said. Like just if you wouldn't mind, just explain the challenges that a Waymo vehicle might face in the Big Apple that it might not in, say, sunny Southern California.
Yeah. I mean, literally the other day when I was or a couple of weeks ago when I was in New York, I saw a guy who probably I think he robbed a store. This was in the Diamond District. I was walking on 40 whatever street. This dude robbed a store, was running through the street, and people were chasing him, and he got tackled, and people were beating the crap out of him.
Holy shit!
In the middle of the street. So
you saw Diamond Heist, and I just now
yeah, it was
hearing
crazy
about this.
I pulled the
You should've
classic New
called me.
Yorker.
I love that stuff.
I pulled the New Yorker move of I took one glance and I was just like, I don't got time for this shit. I'm just gonna keep walking.
I had to catch a train. Yeah.
I went and did some stuff. It caused an hours long backup. So yeah, Waymo would have its work cut out for it in New York City. There's the roads are often terrible. There's people jaywalking even in the middle of the street, not at the stoplights.
I did that yesterday, literally yesterday.
Yeah, everybody does that. There's huge amounts of which I personally love, but it's getting a little crazy. Just the e-scooters and e-bikes going all over the place, on going the wrong way. There's weather, snow, rain. This will be a whole new thing for Waymo.
My joke, and I live in upstate New York these days, but lived in the city for many, many years. And my joke is always, living in New York, it's like the final boss of cities. Once you've defeated that, there's nowhere else to go. There's no other, you can play the game again. There's no challenge you will make that's greater than that. And like you said, I think if Waymo can be successful in New York, it can, to borrow the song, it can make it anywhere. If you can conquer the challenges unique to that city, and driving in New York sucks. I only drive to get out of it or enter it and that's it. You can do that. That's the ultimate test case for autonomous vehicles. So I'm very wary and nervous, and we'll see if the city signs off on it, but it's going to be a really interesting experiment,
Yeah, I think we've got to mention as Waymo is expanding into America's biggest city and what I would imagine is probably the most lucrative market for rideshare in America.
Yeah.
You have Tesla, which is just starting to get off the ground, maybe. As of recording, they're still planning to roll out the robo-taxis in Austin this Sunday, June 22nd. We'll have to see how that goes.
Interesting times. My plus this week goes to Kia. I'm excited about the Kia EV4. And one of our contributors, senior editor at Motor One, Brian Silvestro, he hopped over to Korea for us and covered it. And it seems like a really interesting, hopefully affordable electric sedan. And in South Korea, it starts in the low $30,000 range. It's selling really, really well in its home country because unlike America, Korea is still a pretty strong sedan market. It looks really crazy. It's just this folded origami kind of almost little mini spaceship thing. Excellent range. We're talking an estimated 330 miles of range in the United States. The price tag is kind of TBD because it's going to be made in Korea again. It's going to face tariffs, and we'll see about the tax credit, yada, yada, yada. But I think if this thing comes here and it's even in the mid 30K range. I think it's gonna be successful, and I'm excited to drive it at some point. So like again, good on Hyundai Motor Group for they're really still continuing this rollout and not backing down, and hopefully this thing finds some footing in the US too. But it'll be cool to see.
Yeah, excited to drive it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening to the Plugged In podcast from Inside EVs. We'll be back next Friday. Today's show was produced by Michael Perkins and brought to you by the Motorsport Network.
Make sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts and send us your questions about the EV world to podcast@InsideEVs.com. See you next time.
See you next time.